You're about to see the most scathing yet articulate case for Joe Biden's alleged connections to Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. Florida Representative Byron Donalds just laid bare some pretty damning evidence tracing Hunter's digital and financial footprint all the way to the President of the United States himself. This is a clip that will jolt you out of all the smokescreens and the media regarding the Biden family's foreign business dealings, with that critical line connecting Hunter Biden to his father basically established. So let's get into it.
Our investigation has led to some alarming and eye-opening findings, which point to the president's knowledge and involvement in illegal business transactions. For example, in 2018, James Biden, the president's brother, received $600,000 in a loan from AmeriCorps, a financially distressed, failing rural hospital operator. Bankruptcy court documents suggested that James Biden received these loans based upon representations that his last name, Biden, could open doors in the Middle East based on his political connections.
For the entire duration that the shadow of investigations has been looming on the Bidens, the only vital connection that no investigation had yet been able to establish was between Hunter Biden and his father, then Vice President Joe Biden. And you know what makes that worse? Joe Biden himself has repeatedly and vehemently denied any involvement or with his son's or brother's foreign business dealings, or any of his associates, simply calling such talk, quote, a bunch of lies. The House Oversight Committee led by the GOP claims to have established that vital link. And by the way, the company being talked about, AmeriCorps Health, actually has a long history of being on the legal radar and has had their hospitals raided by the FBI, in addition to accusations that its CEO uses the company as a front to siphon money. But since Joe Biden's brother James Biden himself has never held political office, he has no political leverage in the Middle East or anywhere else. That only leaves one vital name ending with Biden, and he's the current president of the United States.
Specifically, AmeriCorps wired a $200,000 loan into the account of James and Sarah Biden. Here's what makes the evidence damning. On the same day, James Biden wrote a $200,000 check from the same account addressed to his brother, Joe Biden. And for the American people, the brother of James Biden is the president of the United States.
I don't know about you, but I've seldom seen a company near the edge of bankruptcy give out such generous sums of loans. AmeriCorps right now remains a hollow shell of the company it used to be, barely coming out of bankruptcy it declared in 2020. By selling off their assets. But the saga did not end back then, because the rural hospital manager actually came back at James Biden for his supposed role in making them go bankrupt. And when you dig further, you realize something else. The former vice president's brother was actually serving as the advisor to this relatively small rural hospital manager, lending himself in a complicated knot unless he allegedly used the Biden family's political acumen to secure investment from the Middle East. Are you starting to see what Byron Donalds wants to show you? From his son to his brother, there seem to be many trials ending with Joe Biden himself as the guy behind the smokescreen and fronts.
Next example is an email obtained by the committee from a Hunter Biden associate, mentioning that 10% of the relevant joint venture that held by Hunter for the big guy, 10% of a relevant joint venture was held for the big guy. At this point in the committee's investigation, we've established that Joe Biden is the big guy. Through the web of transactions that purposefully tried to hide the big guy's involvement, let me stress again that Joe Biden is the Biden family business.
The big guy. This has been discussed enough. Emails between Hunter Biden and his business associates have repeatedly referred to this shady figure. And while it's impossible to crack open that euphemism directly, the trail of money can be followed if it lands at the feet of that big guy. And that's exactly what the House Oversight Committee claims to have established, including a $400 grant payment from a Chinese company to a venture controlled by Hunter Biden. Then through James and Sarah Biden, $40,000 of that made its way to Joe Biden himself, as had been promised to Hunter Biden in the emails referring to, quote, 10% for the big guy. In actual fact, it's predictable a lot of these payments will be covered for as we're already seeing the Biden family calling the 40 grand as merely a loan repayment. But when you start to probe the Bidens and the people that have spent time close to them, you realize that the big guy is actually a common name given to the current president by his brothers. His brother, Frank Biden, was sometimes observed by people excusing himself for a phone call from the big guy, which was believed to be his older brother, Joe Biden.
Specifically, Hunter has been documented business transactions with a Chinese government-based energy company called CEFC. Interestingly enough, the same company, CEFC, is the same one that is affiliated with the company that sent $5 million to Hunter Biden. How is this not the definition of being and acting as a foreign agent?
The $5 million figure is perhaps the most contagious, having been amplified by people like Vivek Ramaswamy in the recent Republican debates. And it is this payment to Hunter Biden from the energy company Burisma that has become the greatest spotlight cast on the president himself. And you know what? Just this week, the president's son finds himself in some very sticky legal waters, facing a 9-count federal indictment and the possibility of a 17-year prison sentence on tax charges. What we're looking at is a complex knot being undone by pressure from both outside and in.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States has taken money from foreign sources. Meanwhile, the world is on fire. Is the president compromised? Do agents in the Chinese government have the upper hand on the President of the United States while our enemies are on the move? These are serious questions.
Those are the two most important questions you can be asking right now as wars rage on and we face economic and border crises here at home. The integrity of the office of the president should remain without a shadow of a doubt or distrust. But as representatives like Byron Donalds bring more and more bombshells to the table, it may become harder for the American people to just shrug their shoulders and not care. In these turbulent times, the president should be beholden only to the people of this country and not to foreign governments and corporations that use bribes and loans as a lever of control. But if that's actually the case in America today remains a dangerously open question.